Tanmanjeet Singh Dhesi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This debate has been an excellent one with so many touching and enlightening contributions. A moment when Parliament rises to the occasion and speaks for all of the people of Britain and beyond. In the limited time that I have, Mr. Speaker, I want to highlight the role of all, in addition to that of the UK. Women and men from far-flung parts of our globe, whose contribution, it seems, is so often forgotten or understated in modern-day Britain. That may sound controversial, but even within the arts and culture, within our war movies, there is a palpable lack of black and brown faces. For some, it seems as if almost they weren't there. This omission or lesser emphasis is a mistake, and I feel that it is one of the reasons why we as a nation are not able to effectively counter the rise of the far right, which seeks to divide us, which seeks to sow the seeds of suspicion and hatred. So many thousands gave their lives, were cremated, and hundreds of thousands lie at peace in Commonwealth war graves in 150 countries. Troops from across the mighty continent of Africa, thousands lost their lives, and 166 were awarded for recognition and in terms of decorations for valour. The West Indies Regiment, which provided 15,000 troops, fought in France and won 81 medals and 51 mentions in dispatches. The Canadians, who fought at Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele and earned a fearsome reputation on the Western Front amongst the enemy. The Australians and the New Zealanders, who suffered disproportionately a huge number of losses, fighting alongside the French and British on the Western Front, in Mesopotamia, in Palestine, and indeed in the fateful Gallipoli campaign in 1915. And then we come to the contribution of the Indian subcontinent. From modern-day India, Pakistan and Bangladesh came over 1.5 million people, overwhelmingly volunteers, the largest volunteer army in history. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs and others. Khudad Khan, who was the first Indian soldier to win the Victoria Cross for heroism in Flanders in 1914, he was followed not many weeks later by Dhawan Singh Negi, also awarded the VC. From their names, the House will note that the first was a Muslim and the second was a Sikh. But I, being the first ever turban Sikh in our Parliament, I think it would be remiss of me not to dwell upon the incredible gallantry of serving Sikh soldiers and their contribution. Sikhs made up just over 2% of pre-division India, but 20% of the Indian Army in World War I. The Sikhs I think, are rightly proud of their distinct heritage and of their rich military tradition dating back centuries. And in the Great War, this was proved on so many occasions. More than 83,000 turban Sikh soldiers laid down their lives, and more than 100,000 were injured during both World Wars. We are so proud of our forefathers who fought so bravely. Every family has its stories to tell, including mine. In the first months of the war, Mr. Speaker, some Sikh soldiers even refused to take shelter in trenches because they felt that it suggested cowardice. But where, Mr. Speaker, is their monument in our capital city? The National Sikh War Memorial Trust, of which I am president, has campaigned for a memorial in a prime central London location. So many honourable and right honourable members have signed the early day motion, including all the parliamentary leaders of the opposition parties and the Mayor of London. And 266 members indeed signed that EDM, the highest number, I believe, for any EDM for many years. And I would encourage those honourable members who haven't yet signed, and indeed also I would encourage people to sign the online petition which was launched in December 2017. More than 46,000 people have signed already. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, at the parliamentary launch of the National Sikh War Memorial, a staggering £375,000 was pledged by 15 generous donors. And I would like to place on record my immense gratitude to your good self for agreeing to my humble request to actually preside over the launch. The fact that you took over out of your busy diary more than 1.5 hours and gave stirring introduction and closing speeches was not lost on the global Sikh community. The government has since pledged its support, and I'd like to thank them, and I'm sure they will impress upon Westminster Council the need for a prominent location, and I think it would be befitting if we could have a statue of two turban Sikh soldiers representing the contribution of Sikh soldiers during each of the two world wars. And I believe that it should be close to Parliament. It should be a place where little Sikh boys and girls can see a representation of turban soldiers and feel a deep connection to their history, a place which symbolises our unity, our diversity and our integration. Mr. Speaker, in the First World War, soldiers and sailors and airmen came from every faith and background. The Allied armies were racially, religiously and ethnically diverse, just like modern-day Britain. If anything, that army is a true representation of modern-day Britain, and that is why we will remember them.
Thank you. Gillian